At the annual Kids Fun Day event, my daughter won a chance to interact with a tiger, but it was snatched away by David's mistress's child. He patted my daughter's head. Listen, Sophie, give it to Daniel. Dad's an animal trainer. There are plenty of chances to interact. My daughter shook her head stubbornly. David smiled indulgently and didn't say anything more. Until her birthday, David, under the pretense of giving my daughter a surprise, blindfolded her and threw her into a pile of wild beasts. Watching the tigers close in, he laughed, clapping his hands while holding his mistress. Sophie, you like to fight Daniel for things, don't you? Then I'll let you see up close. My daughter cried hysterically. When I arrived, the beasts were tearing at her. In despair, I rushed forward, my heart pierced by sharp teeth, becoming dinner for the beasts. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day my daughter won the interaction slot. Since David loves giving surprises so much, I'll give him a gift too. Congratulations to ticket number 1352 for winning a close-up interaction with a tiger. The stage light swept across the audience, landing on my head. Applause rose from below, and I faintly heard people whispering, "How lucky! Mr. David is a famous animal trainer in the country, and he trains fierce beasts. Opportunities like this are priceless." My head was buzzing. I rubbed my eyes and looked sharply at the child in my arms. My daughter was alive. My nose stung, and I swallowed back the tears threatening to fall, composing myself. The image of my daughter being mauled by the beasts flashed through my mind. I trembled, clutching the winning number slip in my hand. Ticket number 1352, please come to the stage to claim your prize. The mechanical electronic voice of ticket number 1352 repeated over and over. On the stage, David stood smiling, dressed in a suit, looking refined and proper. No one would have guessed that such a man would personally send his own daughter into a cage of wild beasts, simply because she didn't give the spot to his mistress's child. Suppressing the hatred inside, I looked at Daniel. He was staring at the winning number slip in my hand, his desire evident, sweat beading in his palms. I hesitated. This was the ticket my daughter had won. It shouldn't be given to someone else. But for her safety, giving it to Daniel was the safest option. In my hesitation, my daughter's childish voice broke my train of thought. She quickly snatched the winning number slip from my hand. "Mom, I don't want this chance. Give it to Daniel instead." I looked up in surprise. Wasn't standing on stage with Dad the moment she looked forward to the most? As if seeing the hesitation in my eyes, my daughter blinked twice, threw the ticket into Daniel's arms. "You like it, right? Here you go." The host's urging voice sounded. Daniel froze for a moment, his eyes welling up. He didn't feel my daughter's generosity, he felt insulted. He angrily raised his hand and slapped the ticket onto my daughter's face. "Who do you think you are? I don't want your charity." The little boy cried and ran off. On stage, David glanced indifferently at his mistress who followed him, showing no intention of chasing after him himself. He smiled slightly and took the microphone from the host. "Ticket number 1352, little Sophie, please come up to the stage." When her name was called, my daughter's body stiffened. The small hand gripping mine became cold with sweat. She pursed her lips and stood up. Unlike the joy of stepping onto the stage in my previous life, my daughter was filled with resistance. She carefully walked down the aisle, different from usual. She didn't skip over to David but stood nervously about half a meter away from him. David smiled and invited her into the tiger's cage. "Don't worry, sweetie, Dad's very skilled. He won't let you get hurt." "Dad." My throat tightened. In the last life, David never wanted to acknowledge he was Sophie's dad. She was heartbroken by it for a long time, and I tried hard to comfort her, telling her to consider Dad's work. Now it seemed there were clues all along. My daughter looked up at him as she trembled and walked into the cage. My heart leaped into my throat with her. Even knowing David wouldn't do anything overly cruel on stage, the lingering fear tormented me. But refusing outright would be a public slap in the face to David's career. After all, such an opportunity was incredibly rare. If he retaliated even worse, I couldn't risk it. The metal cage door closed. My daughter gripped the bars, her face pale with fright. David smiled and comforted her, but then blew a whistle. At the sound, several tigers surrounded my daughter. My heart pounded. David remained composed. He didn't make any improper moves until the performance ended. My heart gradually calmed. He performed a bowing ceremony. His gaze subtly swept towards me, and he curled his lips. The next second, a high-pitched roar. The tigers in the cage let out deep growls and pounced towards my daughter. I was struck with terror, a cold sweat breaking out on my back. I leaped from my seat almost instantly and rushed onto the stage. At that crucial moment, a black velvet cloth fell from the ceiling, covering the entire cage. Many people around were staring nervously at the center of the stage. I rushed onto the stage even faster. wanting to rip open the cover to see if my daughter was safe. But before I could touch the cage, staff members blocked me, trying to push me off the stage, citing that I was disrupting the performance. My heart was in my throat. I clenched my fists and looked at David. He smiled faintly, as if he didn't know me. This lady is disrupting our show. Please have security escort her out. People in the audience muttered softly, exactly. If you can't handle it, don't play. Acting like it's a matter of life and death. Get down quickly, how embarrassing. Voices of doubt rose from all sides. I almost trembled as I pleaded with David. Please, take off the black cover. Let me see Sophie. He frowned, clear contempt in his eyes, but still managed a slight smile and made a gesture. Staff members exchanged glances and forcefully pulled down the black cover, revealing the scene inside. A collective gasp rose from the crowd. 3 fierce tigers were huddled together, blood on their muzzles, and scattered drips on the ground. I broke through the security guards like a madwoman, grabbed the cage door, and screamed my daughter's name. I'm here, Mom. A voice as thin as a mosquito's hum came from the center. David blew a whistle, and the tigers dispersed. My daughter was sitting on the ground in the middle, her face ashen. Instantly, thunderous applause erupted in the arena. David pushed up his glasses, a hint of mockery in his eyes. Surprise! It was just props. Isn't your daughter perfectly fine right here? I trembled violently. I knew this was David's retaliation against us because he saw his mistress leave. I stared intensely into his cold eyes, wanting to expose his hypocritical facade. Just then my daughter's legs gave out, and she collapsed into my arms. A tiny, barely audible voice whispered in my ear. Mom, don't make Dad angry. He'll kill us. I stood there, replaying my daughter's unusual behavior from earlier, and a suspicion began to form in my mind. My heart ached. She was so young and already had to face such a cruel psychological trauma. After carrying my daughter back home, I softly asked her how she knew Dad would kill us. Sophie? She answered seriously. Mom, I had a dream. In the dream, Dad threw me into the beast cage, and you were eaten by the tiger trying to save me. I don't want to lose you, Mom. I hugged her tightly, tears silently streaming down my face. Just then the doorbell rang. Peering through the peephole, I saw David standing at the door with Sarah and Daniel, looking like a family. David often brought them home like this. He said they had just returned to the country and needed help getting settled. I kindly took them in, cooking different meals every day, but I was harboring a pair of ungrateful parasites. This time, I would never let them succeed. After a moment of thought, I knelt down and stroked my daughter's head. Sophie, for the next few days, no matter what Mom says, will you listen, okay? My daughter blinked and nodded emphatically. I opened the door. Sarah warmly grabbed my hand. Eleanor, Daniel and I really had nowhere else to stay. It's so much trouble for you. She smiled, her eyes curving, revealing a sweet dimple. She casually pushed the bag she was carrying into my hand. This is a new pair of pajamas for Sophie. I heard her birthday is coming up soon, so this is perfect to see if they fit. I smiled and took the bag, calling my daughter over to try them on. Sophie watched Sarah warily, but she listened to me, obediently changed into the pajamas, and turned around. After trying them on, my daughter frowned. Mom, these pajamas smell weird. They look great. Now thank Aunt Sarah. David interrupted Sophie. As he spoke, he raised his hand to pat her head, but Sophie subtly stepped back, avoiding him. His hand hung in the air. David's expression darkened slightly as he pinched my daughter's cheek. Are you upset with Dad because of what happened today? This was Dad's new performance. You were the first one to participate. You should be happy. Come on, this is Aunt Sarah's child, Daniel. Say hello, brother. Sophie frowned and didn't say anything. Daniel looked at Sophie with hostility and shoved her hard. I don't want to see you. Get out. Sophie hadn't expected him to hit her. She fell heavily to the ground, scraping the skin on her palm. I clenched my fists and told Daniel to apologize to my daughter. He burst into tears and sobbed, burying his face in David's arms. David frowned and his face turned cold. Why are you arguing with the child? And you, Sophie, if you hadn't been unwilling to give Daniel the spot, why would he be mad at you? Listen to me and apologize to your brother. Sophie stubbornly lifted her chin and ran into the room. My fingernails dug into my flesh. I took a deep breath and brought out the snacks I had prepared. Only then did Daniel's eyes shift. He hung and stopped crying. Sarah narrowed her eyes and smiled. Eleanor, you're too good. Sophie's birthday is the day after tomorrow, and we'll definitely give her a big surprise. At the mention of this, David's expression softened slightly. He gently took my hand, his face full of affection. It's all my fault for being too impulsive today, wife. Don't be angry. Sophie's birthday is your difficult day, and I've prepared a surprise for you that you'll never forget. I looked at him blandly and forced a smile. David handed me a cup of warm milk. Sarah has a lot of luggage. I'll help her unpack. You go to bed first. That night, noises from next door disrupted my sleep. I quietly got up and, using the moonlight, peeked through the peephole, seeing the two of them entangled. They were passionately intimate, their movements intense, oblivious to the world around them. After a long while I heard the shower in the bathroom. David quietly got into bed and softly called my name. Seeing that I didn't react, he relaxed and lay down under the covers. His phone pinged, and then a sweet laugh played out loud. What should I do? I miss you just 10 minutes after we separated. I can't wait for the surprise for Eleanor in a few days. I wonder how she'll react. The sound of tapping on a screen came from behind me. I sneered. Since they love giving surprises so much, I'll give them a gift too. On my daughter's birthday, I woke up early. Sarah and David didn't get up until nearly noon. They were stunned when they saw the leftover food scraps on the table. Eleanor, Sarah began, what is this? I collected the dishes and chopsticks, glancing at her indifferently. You slept in late. The food would have been cold by the time you woke up, so I didn't bother cooking. David's face fell. He looked up at Sarah's expression and swallowed his words. Sarah laughed. It's my fault. David stayed up too late helping me unpack last night, which is why he didn't get up. How about this? I'll treat you out to eat. Eleanor, you picked the restaurant. I pointed to the most expensive upscale restaurant in the city. Sarah came back from abroad. Picking a cheap place would make her lose face, wouldn't it? Order all the most expensive signature dishes. The waiter agreed repeatedly, smiling until his face almost froze. David frowned. Eleanor, you... Before he could finish, Sarah pressed his hand. It's fine. Do as Eleanor says. She was smiling, but I clearly saw the hatred flash in her eyes. While waiting for the food, I initiated the conversation. David, when are you giving my daughter the surprise you mentioned? His gaze faltered, and he guiltily looked away. Tonight. Don't be so impatient. I didn't say anything more. After eating, Sarah suggested taking Sophie and Daniel to the amusement park for the whole day. Neither of them mentioned the gift again. As evening approached and the crowds thinned, David suddenly spoke. Sophie, how about you and Mom close your eyes? Dad will take you to a surprise place. My eyes darkened. In the previous life, David only tricked my daughter into going. I had to discover it myself and chase after them. Why was he taking me this time? I didn't have time to think about it. My daughter had already taken a step back, shaking her little head. Dad, I'm sleepy. I want to go to bed. David frowned, his gaze turning cold as he watched my daughter run towards the bedroom. I quietly followed her into the room and knelt down. Sophie, remember what Mom told you? Pinky promise you have to do it tonight. David didn't force my daughter. He gently brewed a pot of warm milk and placed it in her room. Sophie and Daniel drank the milk together and went to sleep. There was only one guest room at home, and Sarah said she woke up frequently at night, so she put Daniel in my daughter's bedroom. Seeing the children drink the milk, David closed the door with peace of mind and lay down on the bed. In the middle of the night, I heard him quietly get up and tiptoe out. There were rustling sounds in the living room. A moment later, the front door softly clicked shut. I quickly sat up and saw them leave through the security camera. Time passed little by little. I waited quietly. After about half an hour, my phone rang. The number was David's. I curled my lips and answered. A slightly excited voice came from the other end. Eleanor, hurry to the circus. I have a surprise for you. Sarah also laughed sweetly. Eleanor, come quickly. The surprise won't last long. I said yes and called a taxi. When I arrived at the circus, David was holding Sarah, without any attempt to hide it. I looked coldly at them. Behind her was a huge cage holding tigers, covered by a black cloth so I couldn't see inside. I guess the children had already been put in. Seeing me arrive, Sarah tightened her grip on David's hand and smiled even wider. Eleanor, aren't you curious what the surprise is? I nodded truthfully. Curious. David chuckled and threw the divorce papers at my feet. Eleanor, I'm sure you've figured out the relationship between Sarah and me. Sign these divorce papers to leave with nothing, and we can part ways amicably. So that was his plan. I bent down, picked up the divorce papers, and threw them into the trash can. Why do you think I would agree to leave with nothing just because you cheated? Hearing this, David sneered, looking at me as if I were a clown. He raised his hand, and the black curtain behind him fell. Sarah's laughter stopped abruptly. David's pupils dilated, and the smugness on his face instantly turned to horror. Sarah almost cried out. How is this possible? She looked at me furiously, her false facade completely torn away. It's you. It must be you, isn't it? Before she could accuse me, Daniel was already crying hysterically. He curled up, trembling, watching the tigers get closer and closer. Instinctively, he screamed, "Mom! Mom, save me! It's so scary, ooey." Sarah's eyes turned red. She frantically grabbed David's hand. "Where are the keys?" "The cage keys." David stared blankly at her. "Didn't you just throw them in the river?" Sarah's face flushed. Then she began beating David like a madwoman. "Then go find them. Do you want to watch Daniel get eaten by the tigers?" "Sarah, don't worry." David patted Sarah's back, trying to soothe her. "Have you forgotten what I do? Even the tigers listen to me." He blew the whistle in his hand. The whistle was loud, and the tigers retreated obediently, keeping their distance. The little boy looked around. After confirming he was safe, he stopped sobbing. Sarah's tense expression relaxed a little as she watched Daniel recover some composure. "Why are you sleeping in Sophie's spot and wearing her clothes? Mom bought those for her. Why should she get them? I want to take hers." He made a face. Realizing the tigers wouldn't hurt him, he grew bolder, even trying to grab a tiger's whiskers, completely unaware of the danger. A gust of wind blew by. Daniel sniffed. "Mom, the pajamas you bought smell so good." As the scent spread, the quiet tigers suddenly let out low growls and surrounded Daniel. Sarah's pupils constricted, and she frantically shouted, "Daniel, don't move." Daniel didn't seem to care. He grinned and reached out to grab the tiger's whiskers. "Mom, you're such a scaredy cat. The tigers won't hurt me." The next second, a fierce tiger, eyes bloodshot, opened its massive jaws. Sarah forgot about herself and reached into the cage, trying desperately to reach Daniel. But she couldn't. She could only scream at David, her eyes red. "What are you standing there for? Call the police." David stood frozen, clenching his jaw tightly. After a long pause, he hesitated and said, "Sarah, we came in here illegally. If the circus finds out, my career will be ruined." "Then are you just going to watch your own child die in there?" David frantically found a saw, trying to cut through the thick metal cage bars. But after sawing for a long time, he only managed to cut through one bar. Watching the growling tigers cornering Daniel, Sarah lunged at me like a madwoman, her eyes wild. "Eleanor, you tricked your daughter into switching with my son, didn't you? It's all your fault. If my son dies, you'll pay with your life. This is all your own doing. And you want to drag me into it?" I kicked her away fiercely and raised my hand, giving her a hard slap. That slap was for Sophie's suffering. The second slap was for myself. With the third slap, my hand was firmly grabbed. David pushed me aside. The cage had been sawed open. He breathed a heavy sigh of relief. I didn't know if it was for Daniel's rescue or the preservation of his career. Sarah ran in without hesitation, grabbed Daniel, and started to walk out. But after only a couple of steps, they were blocked by a snarling tiger. The tiger growled and heavily pounced on Sarah. At that moment, while I wasn't paying attention, David pushed me into the cage, using me to distract the fierce beasts. Sarah cautiously crept past from the side. Looking at me, she didn't forget to mock, "That's fate." I burst into laughter. The knife hidden in my sleeve gleamed sharply. As the tiger approached, I plunged it in fiercely. After a sharp cry, the tiger stumbled back 2 steps, completely enraged. Taking advantage of the opportunity, I slipped out. Sarah was completely trapped, her mocking voice instantly turning to trembling. Sarah's screams grew louder. David paced back and forth anxiously, but delayed calling the police, terrified of ruining his reputation as an animal trainer. At the critical moment, a bright beam of light illuminated the room. Police pushed open the door, followed by numerous reporters setting up cameras, capturing the entire scene inside. Several tranquilizer darts were injected into the tigers, and they quickly fell unconscious. When the nurses saw Sarah and Daniel's condition, they instinctively frowned. They had multiple lacerations, but luckily David's whistle still had some effect on the tigers, so they hadn't gone wild and killed them. The police calmly approached David to ask for the details. He glanced guiltily at the reporters behind them. "Mr. David, why were you at the circus late at night? You're known as a top animal trainer in the country. Why did the tigers you raised personally go wild and attack people? Mr. David, please provide an explanation." Seeing David remain silent, the police looked at me. I curled my lips into a smile and looked up at the cameras. I was called here by David. When I arrived, I saw him locking a little girl in the tiger cage, saying it was his new performance. The arena erupted in an uproar. Some gasped, and others, filled with indignation, aimed their cameras at David. "Mr. David, are your performances on stage always rehearsed with bloody lives?" His throat tightened. He glared at me fiercely, clenching his fists, but a smile appeared on his face as he explained calmly, "It's not like that. Everyone, listen to me. It was an accident. When this mother and daughter wake up, they will naturally prove my innocence. As for this woman, she's my wife. She's slandering me because she cheated and wants to divide the property." The reporters were silent. They had seen the blood in the cage, and the people being carried out with their own eyes. David gritted his teeth. After fumbling with his phone for a bit, he held it up and scanned the room. "Look everyone, this is the evidence of Eleanor's infidelity. I caught her hugging a man and shamelessly taking our child on dates with this strange man. Can you believe anything a woman like that says?" I looked at the photos in surprise. Just as David described, I was intimately linked with another person. I racked my brain trying to remember when this happened. It was in the summer a year ago. During that time, my mother-in-law had broken her leg, and to avoid disrupting David's career, I had dutifully taken care of her for over 2 months, emptying bedpans and wiping her body every day, losing over 10 pounds. I finally managed to find some free time, took Sophie out to get some air, and meet a friend. It turned out David had been calculating against me all along, even while enjoying my efforts. My heart turned cold, and a trickle of cold sweat ran down my back. Looking at the cameras in front of me, I didn't explain. Instead, I picked up my phone and sent the social media post I had drafted earlier with a single tap. Sharp-eyed reporters immediately spotted my social media account and rushed to follow and repost. In no time, an article titled "The Untold Secrets Behind Famous Animal Trainer David D." spread rapidly. After returning home, my daughter rushed into my arms anxiously, looking me over carefully to make sure I was unharmed before letting out a long sigh of relief. "Mom, I called the police at the time you told me to. Daniel fought with me over the bed and clothes, but I didn't fight back. Wasn't I good?" Sophie proudly asked me to praise her. I stroked her head, my heart softening, and kissed her cheek. After thinking for a moment, I tentatively asked my daughter, "Sophie, if Dad and Mom separate, would you be sad?" My daughter thought carefully and nodded. "Yes. But Sophie trusts Mom and I'll definitely go with Mom." My eyes welled up. I fought back the tears, picked up my daughter, and went into the room to sing a lullaby to lull her to sleep. When I came out, I opened social media. The public opinion was overwhelming. My post had been retweeted over 10,000 times. While some questioned its authenticity, more people were expressing their disillusionment with David. Over the years, he had built a large following by posting videos of his gentle animal training methods online. High-ranking comments always advocated against animal performance, saying you can refuse the performance, but can't refuse the animals forced to perform. But my post exposed that he and the circus abused animals, gave them sedatives to make them disoriented and perform repetitive mechanical actions. How ridiculous. My daughter and I used to be so proud of him. He even joined an animal protection association, his hypocritical face printed on the posters. Now, all of this was documented in front of the media. David shrunk back like a quail. Someone dug up his old videos, pointing out traces of injuries on the animals. He immediately quietly took down all his videos from every platform. I found it hilarious. I closed my phone and had the most peaceful sleep. The next morning, I woke up to dozens of missed calls and countless messages on my phone. David's tone escalated from negotiation to gradually becoming aggressive, finally cursing me out. "If I can't have a good life, you won't either. Do you think I don't know Sophie isn't my child at all? She's yours with another man. I've been a fool for all these years. It's only right that I make you leave with nothing." I silently watched David's madness and suddenly understood. No wonder in the previous life he was willing to throw Sophie into the beast cage and let the tigers tear at her. He always thought Sophie wasn't his biological child. After thinking for a moment, I was still confused and asked, "How did you know she wasn't your biological daughter?" "You finally admit it. She never looked like me growing up. I thought it was just genetic inheritance from grandparents, but the paternity test Sarah helped me get showed I'm not her biological father at all." At that moment, I decisively hung up the phone. Remembering Sarah's desperate cry that Daniel was David's biological child, I felt a surge of doubt. He was clearly older than Sophie. Could he have had a child before we got married? A possibility suddenly flashed in my mind. I thought for a moment, went into my daughter's room, picked up a strand of Daniel's hair, and found some of David's hair in the bedroom. I put them together in a transparent bag and sent them for testing. Before leaving, I called a lawyer friend I knew, planning to discuss the divorce after the test results came back. In the evening, after handling everything and getting the results, I ran into reporters staking out downstairs from my home. They swarmed around me. "We heard you exposed your husband yesterday. What was the reason? The internet rumor says Mr. David claims you cheated. Are you doing this for money? Are there any other hidden truths?" I clenched my fists, suppressing the anger inside. The reporters couldn't have known where my home was. David must have deliberately leaked it. He wasn't having a good time, so he didn't want me to either. Unfortunately for him, his plan backfired. I took the microphone from a reporter, gripping the report in my hand. The hidden truth is that I am indeed divorcing David, but the reason isn't my infidelity, it's his. The mother and child injured in the news are his mistress and illegitimate son. I can take you to the hospital to see for yourselves. The reporters exchanged glances, clearly not believing me. Out of professional duty, however, 2 reporters decided to go with me. I sneered. I was already struggling to find proof of David's affair, and he just conveniently sent me help. It was easier than I'd hoped. Entering the hospital, I went straight to the front desk and asked for Sarah's hospital room number. The nurse looked me over and gave me a room number. I told the reporters to wait outside and come in when they heard movement inside. Pushing open the door, David was sitting by the hospital bed, peeling oranges for Sarah and Daniel attentively. The moment they saw me, all 3 of their faces changed. Sarah limped towards me. I stepped back and before she could reach me, raised my hand and slapped her hard. David stepped forward and pushed me away, looking at me coldly. "Eleanor, are you satisfied now? I didn't realize you were such a scheming, malicious woman." I let out a laugh. How could I be as malicious as the 2 of you? If Daniel hadn't taken Sophie's spot, wouldn't Sophie be the one in the hospital now? David was speechless for a moment. He paused, then spoke fiercely. "Sophie isn't even my biological daughter. Blame your cheating for hurting her. You're just here to gloat, riding on the wave of online opinion, aren't you? Well, you're too naive. People only remember these things for a few weeks. As long as I find an excuse later, getting back on my feet won't be a problem at all. As for you, just take Sophie and leave with nothing, and go eat dirt." Sarah stood up with difficulty and chimed in. "If you know what's good for you, you'll clarify things for David online and sign the penniless divorce settlement. Maybe David will be happy and give you some money." Looking at the man I had known for 10 years and been married to for 7, I felt only a wave of sadness. I raised my hand and threw the report in my hand onto David's face. He frowned, tore open the bag, and saw the paper inside. He froze. "Paternity test results? Eleanor, are you crazy? Do you really need to humiliate yourself like this?" But David quickly shut up. He saw the paternity test clearly stated that it did not support a father-son relationship between David and Daniel. David frantically opened the other report. The black and white conclusion stated that he and Sophie had a biological father-daughter relationship. How is this possible? He trembled and turned back, trying to get an answer from Sarah's face. "Sarah, didn't you say you broke up with me back then because you didn't want to be a burden? And later found out you were pregnant and raised Daniel alone all these years? I got a vasectomy for you, and I almost killed Sophie and Eleanor. Now the report says Daniel isn't my child." Sarah awkwardly turned her head away. "Eleanor is lying to you. Don't believe her." But David reread the report several times and couldn't find any discrepancy. He stood there at a loss. I smiled, delivering the final blow. "Then I'll tell you the answer. She broke up with you back then because she thought you were poor and turned around and married a businessman. Last year, his family emigrated, and she found out she was just a mistress and was dumped, left with the child. By chance, you got lucky and became popular in the internet age, so she decided to make you her patsy." Looking at the stack of evidence I threw at him, David slumped to the floor. Soon he got up and knelt in front of me, grabbing for my hand. "I know I was wrong. It just so happens we both cheated. Let's just call it even and go back to living a good life together, okay?" His words felt like having cockroaches stuffed into my mouth, foul and disgusting. I couldn't be bothered to waste more words on him, and simply clapped my hands. The reporters outside responded by pushing open the door, aiming their cameras at David. "So did you cheat first? We heard that besides animal abuse, you were also involved in illegal wildlife trading, tax evasion, and other illegal activities. Is that true?" Under intense questioning, he glared at me hatefully. "Eleanor, even if I get caught, you, this cheating woman, will never escape being cursed by everyone." Just then, an old friend pushed open the door. Seeing that handsome face, David froze. I raised an eyebrow, smiling as I knelt down. "Is this the man you saw me cheating with? She's a girl, you know. It seems your heart and brain aren't the only things wrong with you. Your eyesight is too." Everything was revealed. The reporters were very satisfied with the dramatic twist and the material they had. After the video was uploaded, the police legally arrested David. Unwilling to accept defeat, he exposed Sarah. It was all her. This woman instigated me. The tigers going wild were also because of the clothes she bought. Sarah cried and fought with him, a truly messy spectacle. I submitted all the evidence of David's affair and other crimes, requesting a divorce and custody of my daughter in court. The court granted my request, awarding me most of the assets and custody of my daughter. David was sentenced to 8 years in prison for multiple crimes, including illegal wildlife trading and tax evasion. His social media accounts were all banned, with no possibility of a comeback. Before going to prison, he requested 2 wishes. The first was to see his daughter, but my daughter shook her head. Dad is a bad person. He almost hurt Mom. Sophie doesn't want Dad. David went to the circus heartbroken for his second wish, to see the beast he had personally raised again. But an accident occurred. As David was looking at cage number 3, the lion inexplicably went mad and pounced on him, tearing at him fiercely. By the time staff members subdued the lion, David was no longer breathing. Ultimately, he died at the jaws of the beast he had raised and abused. Just as my daughter and I had in the previous life, Sarah went to prison as the instigator. Daniel's whereabouts were unknown. I took my daughter and left the city, using the remaining money to move to a beautiful coastal city, known for its pleasant atmosphere. Here, we will start a new life.